Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube, Diggy546? Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. So this video is just me just responding to the disrespect in the media of the New York Giants. And then most of all the disrespect to Daniel Jones by ESPN, by Fox Sports, by I have no problem with criticism. I have no problem with criticizing a player and saying this player is this player is that, because I have this evidence to support it. Sure, that is fine. I have no problem with that. But these news outlets, like Fox Sports, like ESPN, like Get Up, like the show that Brandon Marshall is on, where I like Brandon Marshall. I think he's a good analyst. I think he was a good player. I mean, he's a likable person, but they're not coming with facts, man. They're not. It's like they're not watching the games. They're just saying general statements that don't really apply to the Giants. First off, let me just start with Stephen A, because he's the guy that mentioned when Max mentioned that the Giants could possibly win this division. I mean, in a division where the entire team crumbled. Philadelphia is an absolute. I mean, it's a dumpster fire. They tanked to get the 6th overall pick, and then they traded the 6th overall pick away. There's pretty much no promise there at all. The Cowboys are getting their quarterback back, but they have a historically horrible defense, and they have pretty much done nothing to address it. And everything that they do is going to be coming from the draft. So that's a projection. And then Washington. Yes, Washington is probably, I think, the Giants' biggest threat, but they don't have a set-in-stone quarterback right now. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I like to watch him play, but he's not the answer. He's not their long-term answer, and you just don't know what you're going to get from Ryan Fitzpatrick on a consistent basis. And then you bring in Taylor Heineke. You don't know what you're going to get from him. He's a guy who's been in the league for a while. He had a couple of good games for them last year, but is he proven? No. Yes, they have the defense, but even with that pass rush, I'm not sure if that defense next year will be better than the Giants' defense with that, with the secondary that we're going to put out there, with the safeties that we have and the corners. The safeties I would think are the stars of the defense, and then James Bradbury, just getting a competent number 2 corner. We paid him, like a number 2 or number 1 corner, probably as a number 1 corner. But the thing is, we want him to be our number 2. We want him to be our number 2. And if we can get any kind of an upgrade from Isaac Yiadom, our defense and our secondary is pretty much flawless. And then you have a slot corner, Darnay Holmes, playing out of his mind too. So it's pretty much going to be a toss-up. I'm not going to just say that our defense will be better than Washington, because they do have that pass rush advantage, and that's so huge for today's game. But it's a toss-up, I think, between the two teams to see who's going to have the better defense. So when you use all of that together, the only excuse that these teams can come up with consistently is Daniel Jones. They say the Danny Dimes nicknames as a joke. They come up with all of these things that just aren't true. They say he can't hold on to the ball to save his life. Well, if you look at what he did last year, he severely cut down on the fumbles. He had a ton of times where people were coming behind him, and it looked like any quarterback in the NFL should have fumbled that ball. He didn't fumble. I mean, Daniel Jones has gotten a lot better at holding on to the football, and that was definitely his Achilles heel when he was throwing all those touchdowns his rookie year, was that every time he got sacked, you pretty much could expect that ball to come out, and he got better. He had some problems at the beginning of the season like that, but in the second half of the season, you can obviously see that he got better. I mean, there were times where he got sacked 6 to 10 times in games, and he did not fumble once, which is not realistic. People expect these quarterbacks to always hold into the ball. That's not going to happen. When you're under constant fire and there's constant blitz after blitz after blitz, I mean, what do you expect? Someone coming from your blind side, most quarterbacks will fumble in that, at that point. I saw Aaron Rodgers fumble in the playoffs. Mahomes fumble in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure. I've seen Tom Brady fumble, and, his team ended up losing that Super Bowl. So quarterbacks fumble all the time, and we don't see that same kind of thing about other quarterbacks. Because if you look at last year, if you want to look at, year by year and what have you done for me lately, the touchdowns were down, of course. And I'll get to that in a second. But the turnovers were down. First off, only 11 interceptions. And then the fumbles were down in general. The fumbles were down because he held on to the ball. He was able to protect it a lot better. And if you look at it, he did not lead the league in fumbles. He just didn't do it. So that is an argument it's not updated. It's just not what was happening. And then if you look at his play on the field, if you look at him every week, you see him get more and more command of the offense every single week. In that second half of the season, Daniel Jones was playing very great football. He was running the ball. He was throwing it. He was extending plays. And the beginning of the season, when he would extend plays, you would cover your eyes because you thought an interception is coming. A turnover is coming. He might fumble. He might throw an interception because he was not that good off schedule early on in his career. But now, when he extends the play, he's actually making plays downfield. So I'm liking the improvement that I'm seeing from him, and I'm not understanding what this media hate is coming from. It's almost like it's a trend to hate on Daniel Jones and hate on the Giants because they have the best roster right now on paper. On paper, I'm saying it's on paper. Maybe Washington, threatens them, but they definitely have one of the top 2 rosters on paper. Dallas has maybe an advantage because of the quarterback, but to laugh and to completely laugh the Giants off at having any shot is ridiculous to me. Now, to the second part of my video, listen, John Mara made some comments, and I'm sure he knew what he was doing, but he didn't know exactly what he was doing because when he said that he believed in Daniel Jones going forward as a possible Super Bowl quarterback, listen, what do you expect the man to say? He's the leader of his franchise. Do you want him to say, I don't think he can win a Super Bowl for us, or I haven't seen enough yet? You don't say that about your franchise quarterback. You put all the confidence in the world into him, and that's what John Mara was doing. He put that confidence into him, and it's up to DJ and his coaching staff and his teammates. He needs a team to make that happen. So hopefully he makes that happen in the future. But I wanted to just talk about a couple of things that I saw Stephen A. and Max. I could go show by show, but I'll just stay with this. Stephen A. said, first off, he started his point for why Daniel Jones isn't good for him being sacked 83 times. So listen, he's been sacked 83 times, and you're saying that's why he's not good. Well, listen, he got sacked 83 times. Wouldn't you expect someone who's getting constantly hit and constantly sacked to probably have a lot of fumbles? I would expect that. I mean, if you sack some of these quarterbacks, some of these quarterbacks go entire seasons and get sacked 15 times. The past 2 seasons, he's getting sacked an average of, 41 and a half times. So that's just what you expect when you're getting hit constantly over and over again. And he hasn't even played the full seasons these past 2 years. So it just shows you how much he's being hit. The first year, I would definitely say it was on that offensive line. The second year, the receivers were so bad that when the offensive line protected for 4 or 5 seconds, I mean, it didn't really matter, and he would get coverage sacked, or they knew our receivers couldn't beat the press, so they just sent 8 or 9 people after us, and no one would get open, and there's really not much you can do at that point. Also, Stephen A. Smith said it'll be because of Joe Judge and the defense if the Giants make the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl. Well, listen. If you don't think they can win the division, and it's so laughable, then why do you believe in Joe Judge and the defense? And we hear this about Eli. It was Tom Coughlin and the defense that won that Super Bowl. Well, listen, if Eli can win a Super Bowl and he was so bad, then why can't Daniel Jones win a Super Bowl? I mean, because of the coach and the defense. It shouldn't matter. John Mara said he believes that he can be a Super Bowl quarterback, and that's what you be if your defense and your coach carry you to a Super Bowl, which never happens because you have to make plays as a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. You do not just get there. You have to make plays in key moments, unless you have an all-time great defense like the 2000 Ravens. That's something completely different. You have to have an all-time great defense, like all-time great defense, all-time. And then these all-time great running backs never win Super Bowls. So it always takes a quarterback that can make big plays in big moments to win these big games. And then Max, the guy who's supposed to be the resident Giants fan, he talks about how Daniel Jones regressed. Well, listen, Daniel Jones last year, if you look at him, he got better with the turnovers. He definitely got better with his awareness in the pocket and being able to move around and extend plays and really be able to play off schedule. He added that into his game. He was always a guy who was fast and could move around, but he was never really, coordinated with it. He had that speed, but it was only shown in the open field. And then, mind you, he didn't run as much as a rookie. This year, he really became a running threat. I would say he took steps forward. If you look at just the box score, just the stat sheet, sure, he did not have 24 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. But one thing that he did do, he got better on the field, play in and play out. He got better at going through his reads. He got better at everything. The thing is, he was playing in an offense that at part, half the time was broken, and then half the time the receivers either drop passes, drop touchdowns, drop game-winning catches, or they just simply couldn't get open in a broken play design. So you have to consider these things, and it just shows me again and again and again that these ESPN and Fox Sports analysts don't actually watch the games. They pull up the stat sheet and they form their opinions on that. And then Max's last point, which is something that I'll finish this video up on, Daniel Jones does have no excuses. This upcoming year, this is his third year. He's got that second year under his belt. He's got the first year under his belt. He's got no excuses. He's got his number one guy. The Giants will take a receiver in the first 3 rounds that I believe will be a heavy contributor. They're going to have Slayton. They're going to have Shepard, who are at the very worst are number 3s. And Shepard is a guy who can beat single coverage. So he's going to have weapons this year. Even if Jason Garrett's play calls are broken, he's going to have those guys. He's going to have Rudolph, who's going to be a solid over-the-middle tight end. He's going to have Evan Ingram as a move tight end. And he's going to have Saquon Barkley back, hopefully at full strength. Hopefully. The offensive line isn't as much of a concern to me. I think that they will get a right guard that will be serviceable. And all you need in this league is a functional offensive line that doesn't wreck the game for you. If you can do that and you have a good quarterback and good weapons, you can perform. So he does have no excuses this year, and he's going to have to get it done. And I believe that he will get it done. And, the media will not address it. They won't address it. They'll act like it didn't happen. They'll wait for the one time that he messes up because he's a human. They'll wait for it, and then they'll jump all over it. I'm just not going to let them spread a false narrative. We all know what we see on tape. We all know what we saw on the field, that he did get better. Yes, he needs to get in the end zone more, but a lot of times he drove this team down the field to the goal line, and guys like Evan Ingram will get tackled on the 1, and then Wayne Gallman just ran it in. So you have to really watch these games to understand what's going on. You can't just you look at the stat sheet and then form your opinion on that. But it just shows us that they don't have educated opinions most of the time. I mean, one time I saw Stephen A. Smith reading off players that he couldn't wait to see in a playoff game that hadn't played the entire season and were on injured reserve. So it's just my little rant on this. I'm part of the Daniel Jones protection squad. I'm part of the Joe Judge protection squad. And listen, we are going to get it done this year. We're going to be in the playoffs this year. We're going to win some games this year. Our team this year is looking ridiculous, man. We got all these receivers, all these weapons that we've added. Saquon should be back healthy, and the defense is going to pick up where they left off, and they could possibly even be better with what we add in the draft and, some of the smaller pieces that we've already added. So you guys, let me know what you think of DJ this year. Let me know what you think of the Giants this year, and tell the media to get off our backs. So if you made it this deep into the video, I'm calling you a D6 squad member. If you're a D6 squad member, you got to hit that subscribe button. You got to turn on that notification bell. And listen, I make all kinds of content for NFL teams. So if you're not a Giants fan, don't worry. I'll cover your team. If I'm not covering your team, let me know. And have a good one.